My name is Gabriella Cox, and I will be doing my USA Bucket List event on New Year's Eve in Times Square, New York City. So just a little bit of a background on New Year's Eve in general. Many of us know what it is, or we celebrate it every year. But in case you don't know, it is an event in which we are celebrating the old year and we're bringing in the new year. So it occurs December 31st to January 1st, which is New Year's Day. And at 12 a.m., we mark the beginning of the new year. And in Times Square in New York City, they celebrate with a ball dropping event, which includes a countdown and different performances for a live audience. So every year, millions of people go, and they see all these different famous performers come, and they have noisemakers and rattles, and it's just a huge celebration to sort of ring in the old and bring in the new. So they're celebrating the old year ending, and at 12 a.m., the ball drops, and they mark the new year. Just some origin on the event. So New Year's Eve in Times Square was first celebrated in 1904. The event, as well as the city's first ever subway line, were considered innovations that would completely transform the crossroads of the world, which they have definitely lived up to that expectation. The subway line and the New Year's Eve event are still very relevant in our world today, and they occur every year, and they're huge. They were definitely huge innovations. The first inaugural bash celebrated the official opening of Adolph Ochs' new headquarters of the New York Times, hence Times Square, formerly known as Longacre Square. So Times Square was originally known as Longacre Square, and then after this new headquarters of New York Times, Adolph Ochs renamed Longacre Square to Times Square. The New Year's Eve event consists of an all-day street festival with fireworks displays, cheering, rattles, noisemakers, etc. So it originally had fireworks. Things have changed since then. But when it first started, it had all of those things, and there was about 200,000 attendees. 2 years later, the city banned the fireworks display due to safety reasons. And in replacement of the fireworks, Ochs ordered for a massive 700-pound iron and wood ball to be lowered at midnight from the tower flagpole to end the year of 1907 and begin 1908. So this is when the ball came into the tradition that we know of now. And every year after that, the ball lowering tradition was practiced. Improvements were made to the ball, going from wood to iron to aluminum, then adding light bulbs to now having crystals, strobes, computer controls, diamonds, you name it. Every year the ball is different and it has more advancements, and it's just remarkable to see how much it has changed over history. The origin of the ball dropping. The notion of ball dropping dates back before New Year's Eve was ever even celebrated in Times Square. The first time ball was installed on top of England's Total Observatory at Greenwich in 1833. The ball would drop at 1 o'clock every afternoon to allow captains of nearby ships to adjust their chronometers. These are just some pictures of Times Square in New York City. So the one on the left is the New Year's Eve event in 1937, and the one on the right is the ball of 1978. So you can just imagine going from a wood and iron ball to 1978. It has tons of light bulbs on it. That was a huge advancement of that time. So now you see on TV and we have the ball and has diamonds on it. It's remarkable to see how much we've changed throughout history. These are just some more pictures. This was the most recent New Year's Eve event. This was celebrating 2020, the year that we're in now. So this was the event that was marking the end of 2019, going into 2020. And you can see our ball is totally different than the picture that we just looked at on the top left corner. That was our ball from this year. And there's tons of confetti, tons of people. It's really just a remarkable event where people get together to celebrate such a great tradition, you know? So, political influences. In 1942 and 1943, the ceremony was suspended due to the wartime dim out of lights in New York City. The crowd still gathered in silence, followed by the ringing of chimes from sound trucks parked at the base of the tower. Various performances have been done at the event in tribute of important issues such as LGBTQ rights. So not every year, but there has been years where performers come and they either do dance routines or they sing songs or different artistic features, and a lot of them go back to some sort of important issue, and I have seen a lot of performers do like songs that are dedicated to LGBTQ rights, which is really great. In my opinion, I think that it's, this event is huge. There's millions of people there, millions of people watching it. So to bring in important factors of our society and politics, I think it really sheds a good light on to bring awareness for these things. As for religious influences, earlier celebrations at Trinity Church were held prior to the ball dropping event, in which crowds would gather to ring out the old and ring in the new. This idea influenced the ringing of chimes and noisemakers used at New Year's Eve celebrations in Times Square. As for economic influences, Times Square regularly fuels New York City economy on a day-to-day basis, providing $110 billion in annual economic activity and contributes 1/10 of all the jobs in the city. That is a great statistic. $110 billion in annual economic activity, that's an insane amount of money. And the fact that just Times Square itself, out of all of New York City, just Times Square contributes 1/10 of the jobs in the city is remarkable. It is highly populated and produces a lot of revenue, especially on large events such as the New Year's Eve event. This event brings in 1 million people at the event, millions nationwide, and over 1 billion watching on television. Average is $2.4 million spent on the event, but it brings in several $1 million in profit. People from all over the world go to this event, and it brings in a lot of revenue for New York City as well, because not only people go for the event, but they end up staying in New York City and they're spending money at other places. So it really does have a good economic influence on New York City. Just a little bit of an overview and some fun facts. The lowering of the ball has become a symbolic welcome to the new year. The first ball weighed 700 pounds. The second was 400. The third was 150. And today it weighs 11,875 pounds, which I thought was just an interesting fact because it started off at 700 pounds. Then it started to decrease in weight. It was going to 400, then 150, and now it weighs 11,000, which is just crazy that something could even weigh that much that we're lowering from the sky. The 2020 ball has 32,356 lights on it, with 16 million numbers of colors in the ball that it's able to display. So our ball this year had a crazy amount of lights, and I don't even know why they would have 16 million numbers of colors that it's able to display. I didn't even know there was 16 million colors, but I put that on there because I thought that was interesting, and I thought somebody else might find that interesting as well. As well as there's 3,000 pounds of confetti that's blasted over the crowd when the ball drops. So as many of you probably have seen on TV, once the ball drops, everybody uses their noisemakers, and there's a huge confetti blaster. So just for some fun facts, that's 3,000 pounds, if you're ever wondering. That is the end of my bucket list event. I hope you learned some stuff about the New Year's Eve event that we watch every year in Times Square. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.